I'm home. Hey gang, welcome back to J Daddy's Garage. Yes, I'm back out in the garage. As many of you know, I had a surgery about 4 weeks ago. I feel like I'm recovered very well from that, and I'm going to get back on the Cobra Jet project. Now when I left off, I had done some test fitting of the quarter panels and I was working on putting the seat divider in place. I'm going to continue with that, and I want to show you what I'm doing to make that thing fit, and I'll show you the other Mach 1 that I have, my Mach 1, as a comparison as well. Now there is a lot of room for adjustment on this. Let's say you don't have to be dead on with these things because there are brackets and stuff that help you with the alignment. So let me show you where we're at and how I'm progressing. So this is the seat divider slash package shelf, however you want to label it. It's a complete assembly. I'm not using any of the original part, and because I put in the Detroit Speed mini tubs, I have to modify this curve. So what I did is I made a cardboard template. As you may say, CAD or computer aided design. This is cardboard aided design. So to show you what I did, I set the regular piece up in there and determined where it would fit, and then I traced out the shape of the opening on the existing piece onto the cardboard, and I shifted it to make sure everything would line up. I have some time lapse to show you on that. And then what I did, I went to the other Mach 1 and I measured basically from the contact point here in the back where the bracket is to the tail panel, and I measured forward. What I found interesting is on the original car, this measurement, that little black mark right there, on one side was like 31 1/4, and on the other side was about 30 1/2. So that tells you right there that the factory didn't even have it close. And now what I did is I took the cardboard, and once I trimmed it down, I put it on those marks and basically stood it up and lined it up where it would fit. I then took the cardboard, flipped it over, set it on top of my panel, and tried to mimic the same dimensions that I had inside of the wheelhouses. Then I traced that mark, and I will then trim that out. Now, initially I was thinking I have to make this perfect, but I really don't. And the reason for that is there are pieces that attach onto the wheelhouse. So in this case, if I come through the side here, I could take this piece, set it on the wheelhouse, and you can see I've got a very wide flange. Well, what that really means is I have almost an inch that I can play with. Now I don't want it that wide. I want to have a fairly consistent shape down here, but this is room to play with. So the important thing is to get this in the right location, and of course get the divider attached to this. So not a big concern with that. Now I want to show you on my Mach 1 exactly what those measurements were. So there's the panel, and again I measured from the back side of the tail panel. So there it is up against, and then I stretched the tape back, and you can see that, hopefully you can see that, is about 31 1/4 inches. Come to this side and do the same thing, stretch the tape, and this one comes out at about 30 1/2. So that's a bit of difference right there. Is it critical? Not really. Will I try to zero it up? Of course I will. Now you can see also that bracket. Hopefully there's enough light that you can see there's the bracket that attaches to the wheelhouse, and then there's a secondary bracket that attaches to the floor pan. So I have to make sure there's room for that as well. So to do that, I'm going to use my nibbling tool, and all I want to do is come in, cut into that radius, and open that up. So let's see how that goes. I want to show you where I'm at on this. Put the quarters back on. I have the seat divider in place, and I have the deck filler piece in place. And what I'm finding is I don't like this. So this is going to be fine. I have a good gap there. It lines up pretty nice on the inside of the wheelhouse. But the problem I see now is the shape of this has changed. The original piece would have been flat all the way down. Wouldn't have had this joggle piece. So if I put this piece in place, this is out of that kit, it doesn't look right. It doesn't, I mean, it'll fit up here okay on this flat section, but then over here it kind of transfers or separates, and I just don't like the way that looks. This is how it would have been on the original car. This would have been on the backside of this flange. The other thing that I'm struggling with a little bit is these pieces. Now these came in this kit that has all these brackets and various other pieces in it, and from what I'm seeing, I'm assuming this piece is supposed to go underneath that flange. And let me show you why I'm a little baffled by this, and I'm not sure how I'm going to move forward on it. So let me show you why. As you know, I'm keeping all of the junk pieces from the original car just so I have these reference points, like that bracket plate right there, that piece right there, this little bracket, this piece up here, all part of that kit. Well, this was underneath the panel. So here is what was left of the original plate that was installed on top of the wheelhouse, and then this was the flange from the seat divider. So this mates up to that flange, and this would have been underneath it, so it would have ended right there. This piece, I'm sure, these pieces are supposed to represent that based on the size of the hole and kind of the shape of it. But this doesn't mimic any of that. Like this piece, if you look, it's got this ear up there that matches this ear here as far as the shape goes, but it's like it's upside down or something. I don't know why they designed it this way. And if I take this piece, that'll match up to that hole. It gives me this opening here, like the flange opening. It gives me the drop down, and it sits basically in the right zone, the right shape. But it is different than what they have here. This is actually two plates. So there's a plate mounted, and then this secondary plate mounts to that. So I don't know if they're kind of redesigned that, if it's supposed to take the place of both of those, but it's different, and it may be fine. I had considered taking this piece off of this this section, but then I looked at the other piece that is on that side. I don't know how well the light is showing it, and I think it's got some rust on it that will make it not work so well. So I'm gonna have to play with this a little bit, and it may end up that this piece just goes in like that, and then this inner flange here mates to the inside of the divider panel. So they took some liberty, I guess, with that design, but it's, I don't know, it's one or the other, and this doesn't work either because this hangs it over the flange of the drop-off panel. So I guess it has to be this one that goes on the right side. So anyway, just wanted to show you that. But again, this is why I hang on to these pieces, so you can have these reference points. Okay, I'm going to redesign this just because I can't get the angles. This is the piece that I cut off of from the passenger side, and if you look at that and you compare it, let's just say if I held that in place and I rotated that, and this is just kind of ballpark, but if I rotated that, you end up with this tremendous joggle here, right? So what I think I'm going to do, and I may process this a couple times before I actually do it, I may cut this flange all the way off, use this piece of metal, reshape it, bend it here, back and then bend it here forward so that it matches this shape. And that'll take care of that whole radius. And then what I may do is either remake this piece or adjust this piece so that it has a different overlap. In other words, it wouldn't have this big long flange. I might have to move this section forward so that it interacts more closer to the holes. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this up and remake it. That's what I do. Okay, so I've cut this into two pieces, right? And I took this piece and I had to put those lines, I rebent it so that it'll fit that shape. So I have this and I have this over here. Now what I need to do is eliminate part of this. This over here is not beneficial at all. So I cut that off because otherwise it just wraps around here and this flange doesn't interact at all anyway. So I get rid of that. And then this piece, I can trim it again to make it tuck under. I may have to eliminate this little hook thing. But for now I can just slide it up like that. Get that in place. And basically I have the same design that they did. And I'll trim this to make it fit proper and before I weld it all together. But I think that's going to work and that's going to look close enough to what they had there before. So, alright, a little more trimming. I can weld that together and have my own little custom bracket. I like it. Wire thickness, I'm using 30 thousandths. I'm going to go to synchronous and then adjust from there. So with some welding, this is what I end up with. Quite a bit different than what it was shaped, but I think it'll work fine. What I will do is trim off this flange right here, and then that should work for what I need it to do. So sometimes you just have to make it custom. So I did a little blending on this, got the backside smoothed up, and then I indicated where I want to put some holes. So I'm going to use my handy dandy hole puncher. There we go. I'm going to call that good. I'm happy with that. So again, that's going to take care of this side. Now if you'll notice, you've got a nice clean gap over here. That space between the filler piece and that inner structure, nice and clean. This side over here is a little bit off. Now, I'm not sure what it could be. It could be the shape of that inner structure, but that was interfering a little bit when I was trying to put things together. So I'm going to reshape or trim off that corner down there so that it fits better. And then the other thing that was a little bit of a struggle, if I could show you this, is that tab right there. Now that sticks through that inner structure. So if you're trying to put one of these together, that has to go in definitely before you put the quarters on, because I don't see how you could get that in there. That sticks all the way through that. Same thing on this side. You can see that little tab sticking through and how much it sticks through there. So what I was able to do whenever I was putting it in place, I was able to flex that inner structure out slightly. I actually hooked one side in and then kind of pushed the other side out a little. So I don't know if I'll need to trim off just a little bit of that post sticking out. It's not a big deal, but just an observation for you. Now also, the way this deck filler piece interacts, it's just sitting on top right now, and the corner right here is supposed to be underneath the flange for the quarter panel, and I don't have it tucked in there. There will be, you know, some things I have to do here in these corners to make that fit, but the filler piece is right on the edge where it needs to be, so that's good. Again, same thing over here. This has to go under this corner right there, and then this is on the money. So I'm very happy with all of that. Now what I will do is make this piece over here to support that flange. So I'll have to build that. And then I was looking at these other pieces that I talked about earlier. Now on the Mach 1 I have in the back, let me just show you that. So I cleaned the stuff out of the trunk, and just to show you, that piece sits on kind of on the edge of the drop-off panel. So the alignment is going to be the center line of the big hole, basically lining up with the drop-off. Same thing over here. So I don't know exactly what that does, if it's part of the seat or whatever, but that's the only thing I can see that is going to make any kind of difference, is where it's mounted. Now what I can do, and I'll show you this on the other car, is put that piece, this new bracket, in basically the exact same spot. So looking down at that same location, this is the corner of the drop-off panel. This will sit right there, and that is shaped to match. You see the angle on that. So this will sit there, and then this corner will butt up against the inside of this flange. So that shouldn't be a problem. I'll just use these and that'll be fine. Okay, here's where we're at. I've made some pretty good progress. As you can see, I've put all the sheet metal back onto the body, and I made both these brackets. So this is the one for the passenger side, all welded together, and of course that wound up going right up there. And I also made one for the driver's side, and that'll go up there. Now, we already know that I can use those brackets, so that's just sitting in that location. There's another plate that goes in up in that gap, and that is this angle piece that comes with that. You can see it has this oblong hole here at the bottom. That actually lines up to that oblong hole in the bottom of the inner structure piece there. To show you that, I have the original piece laying here, and this is a representation of that. So that will be put in, and then I need to weld all this, and I'm not quite ready to weld. I wanted to make this section of the video and show you what I was working on. I do have this all clamped up here at the top. All that lines up the way it should. I did put the deck filler under that corner, so that's fitting correctly. You can see the flanges are nice on both sides. Seem to line up pretty well. And looking at it this way, everything seems to work out as well. So I have also come in and just put marks here and all the way up that perimeter. And there's also marks, you can't see them right now, they're underneath. But I put indications of where I want to punch holes so that I can weld the quarter to the inner structure. So things are coming along nicely. Oh, there's also a series of marks there and on the inside here. And I'm pretty happy with how this is looking right now. You know, I haven't been able to do much, and I keep thinking over and over about how I wanted to approach this. I think I've resolved the problems that I had before me. Well, that's going to be the end of this video. Now, as I said, I haven't been out in the garage. It feels so good to be out here grinding, welding, all those things that nobody likes to do, really, but I like to do that sort of stuff. Helps me deal with life. But yeah, I'm back out here now. I'm going to end up punching all the holes in those panels in preparation for welding. Now, ideally, what I want to do is weld in well, I probably have to weld everything almost all at the same time, to be honest. But I want to make sure I have the inner structure fully prepped and ready to be welded permanently in place. Then, of course, I have to weld the deck filler on top and all that sort of thing, all the flanges, everything like that. So there's a lot of welding that's going to happen. And I just recently got a new spool of welding wire. Harbor Freight had been out for quite some time, so I ended up buying 2 spools because I don't need to run out for a while. But I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank my patrons for supporting me. That is so helpful, and I'm so thankful for them, because YouTube doesn't do what it should be doing on our behalf as creators, at least not for this genre, let's say, of things. But my patrons help me continue to make these videos. If you're interested in becoming a patron, there is a link in the description below. And as usual, I want to thank you ahead of time for giving a thumbs up and leaving comments on all my videos. I appreciate that as well. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya. As you know, I keep all of the pieces and parts before I'm finished.